Chapter 5. Zach crouched as usual to clear the door jamb, but was surprised to find that it hadn't been necessary. Apparently, whoever was expecting him knew about his extreme height. He did, however, shield his eyes from the bright light as he went through. Blinking his eyes rapidly to clear them, as he breached the frame, his vision came into focus to reveal a large amphitheater of sorts. He stood on the other side of the door and did a full 360 to take in the room around him. It looked like what he would imagine the Supreme Court would look like. In front of him, a dais was erected, and on the platform sat a long, ornate table, and behind the intricately dark mahogany structure, he had to do a quick count to confirm there were so many of them, sat 20 cloaked figures, looking ominous and unapproachable. His mouth went dry as he swallowed audibly. One of the creatures in the center of the table boomed, "Come forth, young Eliode." Zach had to wonder, firstly, were they talking to him? And secondly, what was an Eliode? But he approached anyway. The male in the center spoke, not unkindly, and said, "This will go more smoothly if you let us explain your circumstances. Therefore, we will keep the magical gag intact until such time as we are finished. Is that understood? You need only nod to comply." Zach nodded emphatically. No one was more eager than him to find out what the hell was going on. "Let us begin. We," he waved his hand, palm up, to encompass the entire group, "the assembly who sit before you are referred to as the Council. The Council is made up of 20 of the most powerful and knowledgeable, full-blooded magical creatures on this plane of existence. There are others, but they are inconsequential at this time. So let us just concentrate on this plane, shall we? My fellow members and I govern over the magical world, and have done so since the early 20th century. The magic creatures we preside over referred to us as the Magic Council, which simply means the mythological agency governing incredible creatures. Haven High, your seemingly normal high school," he continued, "is a holding facility for the half-human, half-magical beings of North America, with other such schools located strategically across the globe." The imposing magical elder shrugged his shoulders dismissively before adding, "But you will learn more about that in your magic studies class. The teachers in your school are magical beings, either half or full-blooded, tasked with the responsibility of rearing the half-blood magical beings such as you that inhabit North America. All half-blood students, once their powers manifest, must take on a mentor to learn more about controlling and developing their magical abilities. It is usually one of the teachers of the school, oftentimes of the same ilk, but as there are no other Elioids or Nephilim in North America other than our esteemed colleague," he gestured towards the end of the table as the hooded figure nodded reverently back, "you will be appointed a mentor until such time as the council finds a suitable candidate. Is that understood? Nod if you understand." Zach nodded in agreement. It seemed simple enough, but he had so many questions. He couldn't wait to speak. What were Elioids or Nephilim? Why were his types so rare? Where were the other schools? Who were they going to pick to be his mentor? As he pondered these questions, the council sat quietly, seeming to wait for something, but then a thought struck the mute teen. Wait, can they read minds too? The head council guy confirmed his theory when he said, "Now that you have come to that conclusion, we shall proceed. Any half-blood that has manifested their abilities and comes before the council is referred as enlightened. It is at this time they take a solemn oath of secrecy. It is our most sacred duty to protect the magical world from humans. If you break this sacred covenant by revealing your abilities to an unenlightened or a human, then it is within our mandate to strip you of your powers and remove all but your mundane memories, which will leave you with none of your memories of any of the experiences you've had in the magical world. Is that understood, young Elioid?" Zach nodded and gulped audibly, thinking these guys don't dick around, before remembering that they could hear his thoughts. He cringed, trying to look apologetic, breathing a sigh of relief when the council member continued. "I must warn you that every member of your school is a half-blood, but not all are enlightened. You must keep the secret even from them. It is not guaranteed that all half-bloods will manifest magical abilities, and if your fellow classmates never manifest their powers, they are to remain none the wiser. Is that understood?" Zach nodded his head emphatically. Seeming pleased with his response, the council member continued. And as such, we expect for them to go about their business of getting an ordinary high school education, with no molestation from any magical creature within those hallowed halls. Is that understood? Zach nodded again. He had no intention of doing any molesting. Zach smirked, thinking he'd snicker if he could. In a slightly sterner voice, the counselor continued. Young Eliode, you will train hard and learn to control and hide your powers from humanity, and at such time as you graduate, you will join the ranks of the council guard for 5 years. It is only then that we, the council, can be sure you have matured enough to no longer require constant supervision. Is that understood? Zach's eyes became as big as saucers. He didn't like this idea one bit, and he would tell them so as soon as they removed the gag. Nod if you understand, Eliode, the head council member boomed. Lauren stepped forward to squeeze his arm and said, Zach, I know it doesn't sound fair, and it isn't, but we have no choice. Just nod. Zach looked long and hard into Lauren's sad face before turning back to the council and nodding. Good. The council member seemed satisfied with his answer and released the gag. You may ask your questions now. Zach could actually feel his vocal cords regrow in his throat. Thankfully, it wasn't painful. Had they magically made them disappear? It would make sense. He cleared his throat to give himself more time to think. Okay, Zach said nervously before licking his 2 dry lips. What are Eliodes? And what are the Nephilim, for that matter? The Nephilim are the offspring of the sons of God, what you would refer to as angels, and the daughters of earth, more commonly known as human women. The Eliode are the antediluvian children of the Nephilim, and are considered a part angel hybrid race of humans. So, I'm an angel? What does that mean? Am I going to grow wings and fly? What magical abilities come with being part angel? Those are all good questions, but ones we cannot answer, young Eliode. We cannot tell what powers you will manifest, or even if you will manifest any. You'll have to learn to control them as they present themselves. Zach interrupted, But surely the angel you referred to earlier can tell me. Zach turned his gaze on the hooded figure near the end. She spoke up, and Zach could now understand the phrase, she has the voice of an angel. It was melodic and sweet. It lulled him and made him think of the divine. It was like a whisper of warm summer breeze against his skin. My dearest young one, your journey is your own. All I can say is that you may find it very hard to lie or be lied to. You may never grow wings, but that does not mean you will not fly. You may never be able to hear the prayers of man, and like angels you may be able to watch over them without being observed, or none of those things. What I do know is that judging by your appearance, you can expect to be a giant among men with the strength to match, and it is my hope you will do our race proud. Zach sighed as her voice washed over him. It left him feeling warm and euphoric. She continued, Young Eliode, please make your pledge to me as your closest ilk to never reveal yourself to the unenlightened. Repeat after me. I, the enlightened Zachary Reese, do hereby swear to never reveal my abilities or the wonders of the magical world to the unenlightened as long as I shall live. Wait! Zach blurted out, interrupting the rapture of her voice. Does that mean I can't tell anyone? Not even my dads? Yes, my child. Her voice hitched at his words. That means you will never be able to reveal who or what you truly are to the entire non-magical world as long as you may live. Is that understood? Yes, but... She leaned forward at his hesitant words. You must agree, my young Eliode, she said, with none of the warmth of her previous statements. Zach could not help but shiver at the sheer power that emanated from the cloaked figure. I agree, Zach stammered. I swear on my mother that I will never reveal anything of my true nature to the non-magical world. The angel seemed shocked by his conviction as she seemed to rear back in her seat, and with a tremor in her voice she said, That shall suffice, even though you did not say the true words, because you cannot lie. we will accept your oath. Go forth in peace, my child. Wait, Zach said. Is there anything else I need to know? There is nothing that your school can't teach you, the head council member chimed in. Okay. Can I go then? You are dismissed, was the counselor's hot reply. Zach turned to Lauren, who took her hand and began to lead her back up the stair to the open door at the top. Wait, the head counselor demanded. She must remain behind. It is a very serious offense to come unbidden to the council's chambers. Zach stopped in his tracks and turned around to stare at the council. Suddenly, now that he knew Lauren was actually the one in trouble, his concern outweighed his sense of self-preservation, and he said, I don't think so. She's coming with me. Eliode, the council member boomed. There are consequences to every action, and your young friend knew before she came that her intrusion would not be overlooked. Is that not so, young Fay? The councilman turned his hooded head in her direction. Lauren blanched but stood tall when she replied, Please excuse my intrusion. I just couldn't let someone I care about face coming here alone. I hope the esteemed council members will take no offense. I also hope that you have someone in your life that you would risk censure for. Another male council member on the opposite side of the table from the angel spoke up and said in a rich Scottish brogue, Ach, I cannot see why we cannot grant the wee lass the mercy we nae afforded her kin. It cannot be such an affront that it cannot be forgiven. Lauren stood there trying to decipher what the magical creature was saying. Something about mercy and kin was all she gathered. She didn't know what he meant by kin, but she was all for the mercy part. The entire council seemed to deliberate for a moment. The hooded figures seemed to turn towards the center of the table, and Zach couldn't shake the feeling that there was a heated debate happening on some telepathic level. A shiver ran through his tense muscle at the power that emanated from the dais. He shuddered as he thought, Yup, no way he's getting on the wrong side of these guys. He squeezed Lauren's hand, pulling her in close to comfort her. If she was half as nervous as he was sure she was terrified. Zach nearly jumped when the silence was finally broken by the head council member as he commanded, Very well, let this be the last time we see you. Lauren let out a huge breath. Zach hadn't realized she'd been holding, and with a whoosh of relief thanked the council, and then literally turned around and took off at full tilt for the magical door, yelling back over her shoulder as she quickly receded, Coming? To a now shocked and confused Zach. She was fast, but Zach's legs were longer, and they both cleared the doorway at the same time. She did a somersault and landed on her feet at the foot of his bed. Zach wasn't so lucky. He crashed right into it. They both looked back to see the door close promptly behind them. Lauren stiffly walked to the bed and did a backflop beside Zach, letting out a whoosh of air. Zach just started laughing hysterically until Lauren rolled over onto her side and looked at him like he was a crazy person. What's so funny, angel boy? She smirked. Nothing. I'm just really glad I got over my sleeping nude phase. Yeah, Lauren added. If they came for us like that all the time, we'd all be never nudes, like Tobias on Arrested Development. It must have been nearly 5 minutes before they stopped laughing. It wasn't even that particularly funny, but traumatic moments do that to you. Zach stopped laughing and said, I've got a lot of questions. I know, and I'll answer all the ones I can, but tomorrow, okay? Get some sleep. I'll explain everything in the morning. Lauren rolled over and then wrapped her arms around him, digging her chin into the back of his neck. Lauren, what are you doing? Zach asked, bewildered and concerned. If they fell asleep, one of the dads might find them. He'd defo get the safe sex talk again from them if that happened. No worries. No one will see me in the morning. Zach smiled, because as she spoke, her breath tickled his neck and made him let out a nervous giggle. You mean you can turn invisible? He asked as he flipped over to look her in the eyes. No, silly, she laughed. I can teleport. You can what? Zach went to get up and demand to know more when she pushed his head into the pillow and said, Go to sleep, angel boy. Too tired, she mumbled. As she rolled over on his side, he had to admit that if he'd done this alone, it would have been much scarier, and if she wasn't here with him now, there'd be no way he'd be sleeping tonight. And when he heard the soft sigh of her breath, his eyes began to close, and sleep was not far behind. His last thought before the void took him was Angel Boy. Yeah, he liked that. And in response to Zach's satisfied sigh, Lauren exhaled noisily before laying her hand in his upturned palm. The pair fell asleep, lulled by the knowledge that there was nothing they couldn't handle as long as they were together.